My stepmom forced my dad to make me break up with my girlfriend for my brother. I moved out. Years later, he blamed me for ruining his life. I, 32 male, have had no contact with my father's family in the past 12 years, and it all starts from his remarriage. My parents divorced when I was about 10 years old because they were no longer in love. At the age of 32, I understand what that means, but as a child, I was astonished and devastated. As a result, I frequently lashed out at my parents, and we attended family counseling together. However, it just felt like my mother was trying to comprehend my point of view, whereas my father had a strong attitude of simply accepting life as it comes to you. As a result, I was closer to my mother than to my father, and I only spent a few months with him at a time. However, when I was 14, my mother died in an accident, forcing me to move in with my father. Those were arguably the saddest days of my life, made worse by the fact that I was essentially the only one grieving. My father had been dating Beth, 49 female, for a few years, and they had become engaged around the same time my mother died. My father placed his future with Beth over my mother and their shared history, so he never showed any symptoms of sadness or grief. This made me feel even more alienated as an adolescent. Beth was also a handful at this time. Because I was an unexpected guest in their home, she expected me to follow her rules and even attempted to take over as a maternal figure. I was plainly reluctant to do this because she couldn't possibly replace my mother in a few months. Worse, she has always favored her prior relationship's son, Josh, 30 male. In true overbearing parent manners, she attempted to meddle, getting him a better spot on the football team, a bigger role in the school play, and so on. To his credit, Josh typically called his mother up on this behavior, but she continued to act like a smother regardless. And no matter how outraged he became by her actions, he still benefited from her string pulling. So my teen years were difficult, dealing with the death of my mother, my whipped father who never said anything negative about Beth, and a distant stepbrother who was always a little awkward around me. All I knew was that I needed to keep my head down and get out after college. I ended up attending UNC, which was in my home state, and to save money, I remained with my father and his family. This was something Dad and Beth had agreed on, and I wasn't freeloading. I paid a little rent and helped with food. However, things became really tense when I began dating this girl, Laura, 31 female, during my college years. I used to bring her home frequently, present her to the family, and it was obvious that Josh had feelings for her. I didn't like it and warned him in private to quit behaving creepy about Laura, but it was clear he still felt for her. At first, I assumed it was just a crush that would pass. But this guy had fallen hard. He was dropping grades in school, messing up his SAT prep, and acting like a lovesick puppy in general. To be honest, it was not my problem. I had attempted to be the responsible elder brother by not calling my girlfriend over, gritting my teeth about the fact that he was infatuated with her and making no attempt to hide it. He didn't understand it, and he probably didn't want to. According to what I know now, Beth had checked in with her son owing to his strange conduct, and he had poured all his girl woes to her. Beth, after some mental acrobatics of her own, decided that I was too responsible for Josh's condition and instructed my father to present an ultimatum. My father sat me down one day and told me, "Son, we had agreed that you would stay with us during your college years, but something has come up. Beth and I believe you are diverting Josh with your hobbies and the friends you invite over. As a result, we need to reach a new agreement." When I heard this from him, I was perplexed. Without knowing the context, I assumed he was talking to my friends who occasionally came over to play Wii games with me, or that I was playing music too loudly at night. I had no idea, so I asked him, "What do you mean, Dad? Are my buddies becoming a negative influence on Josh? I swear we haven't taught him anything bad, and we usually stay out of each other's way, correct?" He said, "Yeah, but that's not what I'm talking about, OP. I think you and I are both aware that Josh has strong feelings for Laura. We were thinking that you could end your relationship with her to keep the family at peace. I mean, we don't think a female should be more important than your brother's health, right?" I laughed aloud when I heard this. It was the dumbest thing I'd ever heard. Still chuckling, I answered, "Sure, Dad, why don't I end a fantastic relationship because your child can't take no for an answer? I've already told him numerous times that he makes Laura uncomfortable, and I rarely invite her over anymore. What's the issue, anyway?" I knew he was skirting the issue, but I was beginning to suspect that Josh had gone overboard with the "if I can't have her, nobody can" attitude. Beth had undoubtedly requested Dad to talk to me about it to placate her son while also ensuring that he did not waste any more time on this girl. I'm not sure how they expected me to roll over on this. It escalated into a massive battle, and I decided to stay with Laura and move out of the house. I packed my bags one day and departed, changing my cell phone number in the process. I slept at a friend's apartment for a few days before moving in with my fiancée. Fortunately, I was in college on a scholarship, and my primary challenges were paying for rent and utilities. But I hustled and worked late to make it happen. At this point, all ties with my family had been severed, and the only people I consider family anymore are a few relatives on my mother's side. It's been 12 years since then, and guess what? Laura and I married, and we both like our professions and lives. In fact, we recently purchased our first home and are trying for a baby. I really believe that leaving my dysfunctional family was the finest decision I ever made. However, a few days ago, someone showed up at my home, causing me to spiral and reflect on my history. Josh found out where I lived and came over to see me, stating he needed to speak with me. I was too surprised to react, so I calmly allowed him in. We caught up a little once he settled down, but he already knew the overall essence of my life, which he had evidently discovered via social media. Then he told me why he was here. He revealed a lot about his obsession with Laura, including his mother's participation. However, he also stated that he never intended for me to leave the house. That was something Beth had designed entirely on her own. He added that when I left, Mom appeared almost relieved that I was gone, and the house seemed very cold and strange to him. The three of them ended up moving out of state a few months after I left, something I was unaware of. Josh did not know how to contact me back then. Throughout this period, he had been feeling bad about the way I had laughed at the scenario, and he had overcome his attraction to Laura. Surprise. However, due to his bad mental health, he ended up hanging out with the wrong crowd in college and eventually dropped out. The situation at home was also horrible. His mother was distraught at his lack of motivation and success, but she never bothered to investigate why he was so miserable. This eventually forced him to leave the house after 10 years, and he has been wandering from place to place ever since, performing odd jobs and hitchhiking. He approached me and asked if I could help him settle in this area, perhaps by getting him a foot in the door at the place where I work. This would be difficult for someone without a degree or other qualifications, as I said clearly. But Josh insisted that I owe him this for abandoning him with our terrible family. He maintained that despite our distance, we were still brothers. He left about an hour ago as I write this, and I am conflicted. I don't believe I owe him anything, yet it's awful to watch him like this. I spoke with Laura about it, and she would want to maintain no contact, NC, with all members of my family, including Josh, but she believes we should support him in some manner. Will I be the a-hole, WWEBTA, if I stop engaging with my stepbrother? Update 1. Based on feedback, I believe it's better to provide Josh with temporary housing and encourage him to look for work on his own. I'm not sure if we'll ever have a meaningful friendship, but you're right, I don't owe him anything for his own mental suffering. I did what was best for myself. Update 2. After a few months, Josh is doing well in our town. He has changed dramatically from who he was previously and has begun working as a junior manager at the local Walmart. The money we gave him has been beneficial, and he is attending night school to earn a degree. To be honest, seeing him now makes me want to be more engaged in his life, but I can't get over the notion that he believes I owe him something for moving out and making him feel terrible. I discussed it with my relatives, and they proposed confronting him. Update 3. I spoke with Josh why he shouldn't expect anything from me. However, I believe he has matured into a fine man who deserves my love. It took him some time to realize the nuances, but he eventually apologized for the unfair load and expressed gratitude for the support. Laura has also softened her feelings against him as he privately apologized for his previous suspicious behavior. I suppose he'll be welcome in our home from now on. I can't say the same for his mother and father, LOL, we both despise them. Not the a-hole, NTA, but in my opinion, neither is Josh right now. Yes, he was fascinated with Laura, but Beth is the actual a-hole for allowing such behavior. NTA, but I would still be cautious with your brother, not because he is doing anything wrong, but because both of you must work together to process the trauma of your narcissistic parents. I also feel like someone like Beth is difficult to cut off. So, is Josh in no contact, NC, with them right now? My best friend's baby shower turned into a nightmare when she announced that my husband was the father. What happened next shocked everyone. Yesterday, my husband, 32M, and I, 30F, went to my best friend Sarah's, 30F, baby shower. Sarah and I had been great friends since college. We first became roommates, but our connection got stronger as we realized our shared love of similar music. We went to concerts together and created innumerable memories. By our senior year of college, we were nearly inseparable, spending summers together in each other's houses whenever possible. After finishing our schooling, we pursued separate vocations. While I landed a highly sought-after position at a prestigious law firm, my ideal job, Sarah was unsure whether she wanted regular employment. Instead, she chose to look into social media as a source of income. Despite our dramatically different schedules, we made it a point to set aside weekends for each other. We always made time to connect, whether it was on a hike, at a new restaurant, out for drinks, or just staying home to watch movies. I first met Michael on one of our girls' evenings out. He was at his friend's bachelor celebration, and the moment I saw him, I knew he was the one for me. Although we often dispute over who fell in love first, the truth is that we both fell profoundly in love that same night. Fortunately, we've been blissfully married for 5 years, and it's been nothing short of ideal. I often tell Sarah how grateful I am that she invited me to the pub that night. Otherwise, I would not have met my beautiful spouse. Sarah was unmarried for a few years following my marriage before meeting her current spouse, Mark, and celebrating their second anniversary this year. 3 months ago, Sarah announced that she was pregnant, and I was overjoyed. I couldn't wait to watch my closest friend begin this new chapter in her life and hold her baby shortly. I was honored when Sarah entrusted me with organizing her baby shower because I would be the baby's godmother. After exploring numerous themes, we settled on yellow, Sarah's favorite hue. Throughout the planning process, I maintained regular contact with the caterer to ensure that everything was in order and that the cake arrived on schedule. As fate would have it, I had previously worked with the caterer for my brother's wedding, so it was easy to work with her again. On the day of the shower, we arrived early to ensure that everything was great. Mark met us at the door and informed us that Sarah was still getting ready. While setting up, I discovered that the cake was not centered on the table as Sarah requested, so I corrected it. Soon after, the visitors began to arrive, and I was delighted to see several of our old college pals. We hadn't seen one another in years, so we used the chance to catch up and discuss critical life updates. Sarah entered the room wearing a bright yellow outfit that matched her baby shower theme. Everyone congratulated her, and she smiled radiantly. As the ceremony progressed, we all sat down to eat a great lunch. Everything looked to be going well until Sarah called everyone's attention. She stood up and thanked us for attending her baby shower. Then she took a deep breath and said, "I'm thrilled to tell you that my husband, Mark, and I are expecting our first child, and I have someone very special to thank for that." Mark looked at Sarah with a bewildered expression, trying to figure out what was going on. Then, pointing directly at my husband, "Michael," she exclaimed. "Everyone, I'd like to introduce the father of our baby." I nearly choked on my dinner. The room was silent, and I could see everyone was surprised and unsure how to respond. My mind raced to make sense of what was going on. My husband, who dislikes attention and prefers to keep to himself, grabbed my hand hard under the table. I turned to look at him, and he seemed as perplexed as I was. All eyes were on us in an uncomfortable and awkward quiet. I looked to Sarah, looking for an answer. Just to give you some context, my husband and I have been trying to conceive for years with no success. Despite several testing, we have been unable to become pregnant owing to personal medical difficulties. I've only told a few family members and close friends about my difficulties, including Sarah. My husband and I eventually accepted that we might not be able to get pregnant. Rather than dwell on it, we decided to concentrate on our lives as a couple. Sarah openly referring to my husband as the father of her baby was a lie, but I couldn't help but be affected by her statements. My eyes welled up with tears, and I tried not to cry in front of everyone. Sarah jumped up laughing and playfully shoved her husband Mark, shouting, "I was just kidding, guys. This is all just a prank for my Instagram. I've put up cameras everywhere to capture all of your reactions." As everyone glanced around, puzzled, I couldn't help but be annoyed at Sarah for putting us on such an emotional roller coaster. I couldn't believe my best friend felt pointing out my spouse as the father of her child was humorous, especially given our past issues. I turned to look at my spouse and noticed that his face was flushed. He was still holding my hands, and I could sense he was ashamed at the time. Although a few visitors laughed nervously, the room was generally uncomfortable. I noted that Sarah's husband, Mark, did not join in the laughs. He appeared upset rather than amused, and even apologized to my husband. Mark and my husband had grown to be close friends over the years, and I believe he felt sorry for us at the time. I did not want to face Sarah right away and ruin her baby shower. As she continued with the festivities, I attempted to shake the dread that had crept in, but it persisted. After lunch, we played a few games before opening all the gifts. Sarah was the only one who appeared to be having fun, conversing with people and shooting images for social media. My husband had previously informed me privately that he intended to leave after the awful meal, but I urged him to stay. I didn't want the visitors to notice us leaving unexpectedly, so I told him I'd talk to Sarah about it later. I guess Mark, too, was uncomfortable continuing with the celebration since he immediately stood up with an angry expression. He asked Sarah if they could go outside for a bit, and I knew something was about to happen. We could all see and hear them plainly as they spoke, and it was clear that Sarah's joke had made the atmosphere in the room uncomfortable. I observed as their talk heated up, and Mark's motions became increasingly impassioned by the minute. Mark's voice increased, and his comments echoed across the room. "I can't believe you would do something like this. They are our closest friends, and this is not just a harmless prank. You made a mockery of our baby shower and humiliated me in front of everyone." Sarah kept saying she thought it was a harmless prank, but Mark was having none of it. He sternly advised her to grow up and stop making insensitive comments, especially since they were celebrating the birth of their child. The room had become uncomfortably silent. We could all hear their words plainly. My husband couldn't stand it any longer, so he got up and went, saying he'd wait for me in the car. Although my heart grieved for my friend, I recognized how hurt my husband was and could not blame him for leaving. Mark must have recognized the gravity of Sarah's actions as he watched my husband walk out. He glanced at Sarah and responded, "I'm done. I'm done with your immaturity. We're done. I will love this child, but I can't be with you for 1 second longer." When Sarah heard this, she burst into tears, and Mark departed the gathering. We all glanced at each other in surprise, unsure how to respond. My heart ached for my dearest buddy, but I knew my husband needed me more at the time. I did not want to approach Sarah after her painful chat with Mark, so I too left the baby shower without saying goodbye. When I arrived home, I noticed how upset my husband was. We couldn't believe Sarah had pulled such a nasty hoax on us. That evening, Mark texted us an apology, stating he had no idea she would perform such a hoax for a video and was sorry for all we had been through. We were delighted he reached out because we didn't want to have any ill will toward him and fully understood his point of view. Unfortunately, I awoke today to multiple messages from Sarah. She said that she pulled the prank out of stress from her pregnancy and simply wanted to make a viral video for her Instagram. She stated she didn't understand why we were unhappy and wondered why I left without saying goodbye. Then she requested me to meet her today so that I could take her to her gynecologist visit. Starting to get upset again, I told her that I didn't find her joke amusing at all. I told her that what she did was rude and had made both my husband and me very uncomfortable. I also informed her that I needed some time away from her and would be unable to accompany her to her appointment that day. Sarah retaliated by labeling me a shitty friend for abandoning her at such a vulnerable moment. This message truly bothered me. I couldn't believe she'd say something like that just because I needed space. When I told my husband about Sarah's message, he was just as outraged as I was. He urged that we avoid interacting with her until she comprehended the gravity of her conduct. I decided to send Sarah one final message, informing her that I would not be speaking with her until she apologized to both me and my husband for what she had done. I also made it plain that if she attempted to upload the prank film, I would take legal action against her. Rather than apologize, Sarah stated that she did not believe she had done anything wrong. She even suggested that I was jealous of her due to her pregnancy. When I read her response, I couldn't believe my eyes. This woman, who had been my best friend for over a decade, assumed I was jealous of her, despite the fact that I had gone above and beyond to provide her with the ultimate baby shower. Sarah assured me she would not be uploading the film, but she insisted that I put my sentiments aside and assist her at this difficult time. She stated that her husband hadn't returned home the night before and that she needed me more than before. As a non-confrontational person, I found myself in tears after reading her callous messages. Recognizing that I couldn't continue this conversation, I made the difficult decision to block her without further answer. Now I'm conflicted. Part of me regrets not being there for my pregnant best friend, but another part of me is relieved and even grateful that her husband dumped her after the trick she pulled on us. Update 1. It's been a week since my last update, and a lot has happened. First and foremost, I want to highlight that Sarah is not the type of person who likes to joke around. It took me completely by surprise when she pulled off this joke. I've known her for years, and she's never been the sort to perpetrate pranks on others. Anyway, Mark was serious about leaving Sarah. My spouse chatted with Mark over the weekend and discovered that he is actively looking for a divorce lawyer. Since that day, Sarah has been persistently phoning and texting Mark, insisting that he return to her and get over his feelings. However, Mark has entirely ignored her attempts to contact him. She even went so far as to accuse him of sleeping with me, which was absolutely unexpected. The truth is that Mark is simply sorry that his marriage is coming to an end because Sarah is gradually becoming someone he no longer recognizes. Sarah has been unable to reach me directly after I blocked her. Instead, she left a lengthy note for my husband. She accused him of attempting to destroy our friendship, even claiming that he isn't much of a man, because he can't get me pregnant. I was upset when my husband showed me the note when he returned from work yesterday. Until now, I had tried to ignore her unexpected change in behavior, figuring that it was caused by pregnant hormones. But her derogatory remarks to my spouse were utterly wrong. That was when I decided to teach her a lesson. I was in charge of both the baby shower and the baby registry. I had spent numerous hours with Sarah discussing her needs and compiling a list of important goods for the baby. However, Sarah insisted that we include ridiculously costly items on the list, things that not all attendees could buy. During the baby shower, I noted that while some guests followed the list, others presented her with practical goods that were not on the list but would still benefit a new mother. Sarah was genuinely upset about it. Originally, I intended to personally give her a handful of the pricey goods she desired. However, after she crossed the line by insulting my husband, I promptly canceled the order and erased the baby registry to ensure she could not access it. If she wanted one now, she'd have to start from scratch. Additionally, I received a message from the caterer about the baby shower a few days ago, but I was too consumed with dealing with Sarah to answer. As a surprise gift to Sarah, I had previously paid half of the catering service's booking fees and planned to pay the remaining balance after the baby shower. However, given everything that had transpired, I became distracted and entirely forgot about it. I called the caterer and explained the situation to Sarah. I informed her that given what had happened, I would not be paying the remaining sum. The caterer was very kind and advised me that because Sarah had booked the catering service under her own name and had communicated with them prior to the baby shower, the final payment would be sent to Sarah rather than me. I was happy that I wouldn't have to spend any more money on someone who had publicly insulted us and continued to cause us harm with her harsh text messages. I also told my spouse what happened, and he found it humorous. Although I had pondered contacting Sarah in the previous few days, once she sent that letter to my husband, I realized that I had gone beyond the point of forgiving. I'm grateful to everyone who backed me and helped me recognize how harmful her conduct was. Looking back, I can recall several occasions when she criticized me, but I never paid much heed to them, until now. Anyway, I'm going to remain positive and move on from this experience. I do not want to waste any more time or energy on her. Update 2, this woman is unashamed. Sarah sent me an email several days after I spoke with the caterer. As soon as her name appeared in my email, I knew she was back with her bullshit. In the email, she accused me of being cheap for not paying for the full food service, although knowing I could afford it. She stated I had always been arrogant because I was born into my family's wealth, and then she expressed her relief that I could never conceive. She went on to say that she had been using me for years to make her life easy. Then she repeatedly called me unattractive and implied that I was undeserving of my spouse. She also said that my husband married me just for my money because I was too ugly to be with him. She then called me an expletive for allegedly putting a wedge between her and her spouse. Throughout the email, she used explosive profanity, essentially calling me every foul name under the sun. I showed the email to my husband, who quickly deleted it. Over the years, we've both gone above and beyond to assist this woman. We were there for her when she was single and distraught over several breakups. We've brought her on vacation with us and even paid for her flight and hotel room on multiple occasions. My spouse had even assisted Sarah's parents by restoring their home and lending them money a while back. We'd always treated her like family. Furious, my husband immediately contacted Mark and invited him over for dinner to discuss the problem. When Mark came, we handed him the email, and his expression was utter contempt. He then gave us text conversations from Sarah, in which she used similar profanity and even accused him of cheating. We were deeply shocked by the gravity of the charge, as it was not something to be simply flung around or uttered in anger toward one's spouse. It was difficult to imagine that my former best buddy, whom I had just recently parted ways with, had changed so significantly. Mark told us that he was in contact with a reputable divorce lawyer. According to his lawyer's advice, he never responded to Sarah's texts, no matter how insane or cruel they were, and instead saved screenshots of everything she sent him. He also photographed the email she had sent me so he could show it to his lawyer. Since I wrote the original article, I've had a few DMS from folks who are concerned about Sarah, presuming she has neurological abnormalities as a result of her rapid change in behavior. I'd like to add that she's always had temper issues. Even while we were in college, I saw her lose her temper and use profanity toward others, even in public. Though I really doubt this is a medical issue, my husband and I will nevertheless contact her parents about the situation. We want to tell them everything and show them all of the messages and emails she has sent us. If they believe there is something wrong with her after that, it is their responsibility to take her for a medical checkup. Despite everything, I do not intend to unblock her or answer her email. I have gone above and above for this woman, and for her to continue mistreating, belittling, and disrespecting me is beyond disappointing. I intend to put this experience behind me and focus on enjoying life with my spouse and our dogs. The last few months have been a roller coaster of emotions, to say the least. I hope everyone is having a good start to the new year, just as my husband and I are. We're here in the Maldives, taking a much-needed break from our hectic careers. Given the events of the past year, we decided to take a break from work and unwind. So far, we've spent our days relaxing on the beach and sipping cool cocktails at the resort. Update. Several of you have requested an update, and as expected, Mark and Sarah have officially split. The court case was heated, with Mark's lawyer providing evidence as well as their previously agreed upon premarital agreement. Despite Sarah's best efforts, she and her lawyer were unable to win the case. However, both parties have been instructed to develop a co-parenting plan in the best interests of their child. When we contacted Sarah's parents about her erratic conduct, we discovered that she needed to move back in with them. Apparently, due to her pregnancy and lack of proper work experience, she was unable to support herself for long using only social media. She had no choice but to return to her parents' residence. I also discovered from our mutual friends that after the disastrous baby shower, everyone quickly distanced themselves from her. Nobody wanted to become involved in her drama. Mark did not visit Sarah after filing for divorce until she went into labor. He stayed in the delivery room all night to witness the birth of their daughter. He has since devoted himself to caring for the baby, spending as much time with her as possible, and providing financial support as agreed upon. He still meets up with my husband on weekends, whether to play golf or have drinks in the evening. Sarah was forced to pay the remaining bill for the baby shower caterer after he threatened legal action. Sarah has sent me several emails in which she blames me for her life circumstances. Despite her parents subjecting her to numerous medical tests, she is completely healthy. As a result, there is no excuse for her immature behavior. Hopefully, for the sake of her daughter, she will strive to change and become a better person in the future. My husband and I did not let this situation affect our happy and healthy marriage. We moved on from it within a month and concentrated on our personal and professional lives. We still go on Sunday dates, just like when we first started dating. When I look at my husband, I still feel the same excitement and appreciation that I did when we first met. I'm grateful to be spending my life with him. I'd also like to express my sympathy to all of the couples who have expressed their difficulties with infertility. I want you to know that it's perfectly fine, life takes its own course, and we must trust the journey. If you genuinely love your partner, there are numerous other ways to become parents. However, my husband and I are content with each other's company and have decided to spend the rest of our lives happily together. My girlfriend wanted an open relationship. So I watched her drift away, found comfort in her best friend, and took control of my own happiness. Hey Reddit, I never thought I'd post about relationships, but I need to vent and maybe get some help. At 28, male, I thought my relationship with Sophie, 27, female, was secure until recently. After 3 years dating and 2 years living together, everything was great. Like I was covertly checking for engagement diamonds on my lunch break. Super normal story. Common friends introduced us at a board game night. She smiled at my stupid jokes, I enjoyed her Monopoly competitiveness, and we clicked. After dating for a year, it was natural to share an apartment as we were always at each other's houses. Our routines, you know? Sunday morning pancakes, park walks after work, watching her favorite dreadful reality shows while I play phone games, normal couple stuff. Sophie is a marketer, I handle building projects. Our families get along, we have wonderful careers, and friends. My mom adores her. Her dad regularly invites me to football games. We were that couple that gave others hope in relationships. Yeah. It sounds familiar now. Everything was normal until Tuesday. Dinner was served. Sophie was talking about a work project while I was eating my sandwich when she said, "Hey, what would you think about trying an open relationship?" I froze mid-bite, fork halfway to mouth. I assumed I misheard her, but she kept talking. She told me she had been reading about it online, that many couples were trying it, and that it may help us grow and strengthen our relationship. I asked, "Is there someone specific you want to date?" Because that was my initial instinct. Open relationships are only discussed when someone has someone in mind, right? Sophie became defensive. No, it's not about anyone else, I just think it would be good for us to explore ourselves more. We're still young, and I don't want us to wake up in 10 years wondering what we missed out on. Sitting there, I tried to understand what was happening. When a waitress smiled too much at me, this girl became upset. Her new dating advice is like proposing we try a different restaurant. I asked, "Have you been feeling unhappy?" In case I missed something, maybe I should have noticed indications. Not at all, she answered, taking my hand across the table. I love you. I love us. This isn't about being unhappy, it's about making our relationship even better. Think about it. We could both have new experiences but still come home to each other. Lots of couples say it makes their connection stronger. Not knowing what to say. My thinking froze between confusion and panic. My appetite was gone. The food in front of me could have been cardboard. Sophie, however, spoke animatedly, almost glowing. She kept talking about norms, boundaries, communication. But I kept thinking, where is this coming from? However, yes. I said, okay. I realize this sounds weak. Not because I wanted to. Not because I believed. But her desire in her eyes and the way she leaned in, virtually screaming for my approval, showed she had already decided. Saying no was like closing a door she didn't want to. Are you sure you're okay with this? She questioned, wide-eyed and anxious, like she was offering me a choice. We don't have to if you're not comfortable. I saw her desperate for my approval. I knew this wasn't a decision in the back of my head. Something was changing between us, like it or not. To find out what was going on, I had to play along. No, it's fine, I nodded. If you think it'll be good for us, we can try it. I entered something I didn't believe in, knowing I was losing her. She became thrilled and started talking about how we might set up dating app profiles together and how we should notify each other of upcoming dates, all of which she seemed to have already considered. I'm sitting there wondering, how long did she plan this? Rest of the night was odd. We watched TV as usual, but my mind raced. Sophie was cuddling with me on the couch, acting like everything was fine, like she hadn't just suggested changing our relationship. I kept wanting to return it and tell her I wasn't happy. I had no idea how. Every time I saw her browsing through her phone with a smile, I felt like I had made a big mistake. That night in bed, I couldn't sleep. Sophie lay cold next to me, serene, while I glanced at the ceiling, wondering what I had done. Part of me wanted to wake her awake and tell her I didn't want to share her. Some part of me was afraid. I was afraid she would do it or leave me if I said no. As I laid there, I reviewed our recent conversations to see if I missed any indications. Is she bored? Was I insufficient? Was someone else there? I had no responses to the inquiries that kept coming. Little did I know, this was just the start of the chaos. Sophie asked me to assist pick photographs for her Tinder and Bumble profiles all evening, like a lover would. She asked me to take new photos of her. Yes, seriously. I took images of my girlfriend to make her look good to other males. I created my own profile to demonstrate my effort. My heart wasn't in it. Writing a bio felt awkward and false every time. What should I write? Looking for fun while dating? I felt awful all over. She probably knew I wouldn't meet anyone. I told her I'm not social and don't have time or energy to meet new people several times. Maybe she believed she could date and use me as backup. Sophie got matches fast. Her beauty and playfulness are obvious. I was most surprised by how quickly she met these guys. Within a week, she had 3 dates. 3. She showed me their profiles like we were discussing celebrity obsessions. She shoved her phone in my face. Look at this one. He's a personal trainer at that fancy gym downtown. We're getting coffee tomorrow. I nodded, pretending this was usual. I felt queasy the first time she got dressed for a date. I had never seen her black clothing before. For this, she bought new outfits. She did cosmetics for an hour. She twirled as she left our bedroom. How do I look? She exclaimed. I said, great, knowing that dress probably cost more than she spends on our date nights. She returned home late that night, laughing. I feigned to sleep when she went to bed, but I heard her texting for an hour. She hummed while preparing coffee the next morning and pretended everything was wonderful. I noticed her schedule. Monday involved coffee with the gym guy. Wednesday supper with a lawyer. A food truck owner and I had drinks Friday. The range was intriguing. She always came home looking like she had the time of her life. I checked the Instagram locations she tagged. Not my proudest moment, but I needed to know the truth. I drove by the restaurant where she stated she was eating one night. She was at the bar with a tall suit-clad man cracking up. She held his arm and looked at him like she did at me. Distance between us. Her change at home was worse than seeing her with these guys. She spent less time with me, no more cuddling. She texted constantly. Sunday pancake ritual? She was meeting the girls for brunch. I once discussed it with her. Don't you think you're going on a lot of dates? I asked casually. She looked at me like a fool. That's the whole point of an open relationship, isn't it? To meet new people and have experiences? You should try it too. I can help you with your profile if you want. But I didn't want profile aid. Please return my girlfriend. I wanted the person who used to love ordering pizza and watching lousy movies with me, not this new version who always dressed up and left. She was getting ready for date number 6 or 7 one night. I lost track. I couldn't stand it. I went on a walk to clear my brain and ended up at this picnic spot. I sat there for 2 hours contemplating how quickly everything had fallen apart. Sophie's messages buzzed my phone. Hope you're okay, don't wait, have such a great time. She twisted the knife with each message. She tried to tell me about her date the next day, how hilarious he was and how he took her to this great new restaurant. Standing, I left the room. Following me, she seemed bewildered. I thought you were okay with this? She asked, shocked. Yeah, maybe I'm not, I answered. But you could be dating too. You're choosing to stay home and be miserable? That's when I understood she didn't understand. She didn't get that I didn't want additional dates. I wanted her. Her old self. He liked our boring, normal existence together. 3 weeks had passed since she started this open relationship thing. 3 weeks of watching her dress up for other guys and lying awake wondering where she was, what she was doing, and who she was with. My thoughts went crazy for 3 weeks. I assumed she'd understand how foolish she sounded. I kept waiting for her to wake up and realize how ridiculous this was and what she was throwing away. But she didn't. Without hesitation. Not guilty. She took pride in it. She moved around like she had discovered a higher level of dating that we were too foolish to understand. Worst part? I couldn't comprehend why. It seemed she liked me. Why burn it all down? Why say we didn't have enough? It finally clicked. This was unfixable, no return. The end was irreversible. For once, I wasn't sure I cared. I was inspired by the thought of her living her life carefree while I was drowning in it. I wanted her to regret everything. Show her what she threw away. I had no plan yet. I knew I wouldn't suffer while she had fun. I didn't know what to do next, but I needed to chat. Someone who would realize how messed up this was. Emma started visiting more often. Sophie's best friend since college freshman year was Emma. She came to movie nights, helped us move furniture, and brought soup when someone was sick. One of those genuine people, you know? Being a kindergarten teacher suits her because she makes everyone feel heard and important. I always saw her as Sophie's friend. Though pretty, long brown hair, green eyes, constantly smiling, I put her in the buddy zone. In addition, she had dated Mark for 2 years. However, they split months ago. She first came over after Sophie started her open relationship to borrow mixing bowls for a birthday cake. Sophie went out with a new guy, and Emma sensed something was up with me. You look terrible, she stated directly. What's going on? Although I didn't intend to tell her everything, it happened. How Sophie announced open relationships to me. How she dated various males practically every night. I felt crazy witnessing it all. Emma sat, listening. Truly listening, not just waiting for her to speak. She shook her head after I finished. Not an open relationship, she remarked. That's just Sophie doing whatever she wants without caring how it affects you. Something about hearing it from someone else made me less insane. After that, Emma visited more often, generally while Sophie was dating. Watching movies, ordering takeout, just hanging around. Talking to someone was nice. Someone who understood us and the situation. Confession: Emma appeared concerned one night after Sophie had been exploring for a month. I saw her fiddle with her jewelry when she was concerned. I need to tell you something, she whispered from across the couch. And it might make things weird, but I can't keep pretending. My stomach flipped strangely, maybe I knew what was coming. I've had feelings for you for a long time, she replied, holding her hands. Like, since before you and Sophie even got together. But you were with her, and she's my best friend, so I never said anything. I started dating Mark hoping it would help me get over it, but, she replied. It didn't work. I sat there trying to comprehend. Emma, kind, funny, lovely. Had affections for me. How could I miss that? She assisted me in Sophie's gift selection. Sophie, who was undecided about a meaningful relationship with me. Sophie seldom texted to check in, but Emma made me homemade chicken soup when I was unwell. Was I blind the whole time? You don't have to say anything, she said hurriedly. I just needed you to know. Watching Sophie treat you like this, seeing how much it's hurting you, it's been killing me. You deserve better than this. I regarded her. Really regarded her. Her eyes shone in that modest green sweater. Her hair was in an easy sloppy bun that made her seem prettier. I was puzzled how I hadn't noticed before. Still, Sophie's actions haunted me. She believed I'd wait like a devoted idiot while she walked around with multiple guys. Like I was a safety net. Available whenever she was bored. It was her biggest error. She was out there doing what she wanted, assuming I'd be there when she returned. Nah. For me, that chapter ended. I no longer followed her rules. My game was personal. I shot my shot. I breathed deeply, feeling that shift. The moment when I took charge. Emma, I said, surprised by my steady voice. She sat closer on the couch. I know this is complicated. I know I'm probably making everything worse by telling you this. But seeing you so unhappy these past few weeks, I just couldn't stay quiet anymore. She kissed me, leaning in, kissing me. Should have stopped. I should have considered Sophie, our friendship, and how complicated this would be. So I kissed her back. Not simply a kiss. We slept together. This was different. Emma noticed me. She liked me. She noticed my countenance shift, inquired what I was thinking, and cared. After resting in the dark, I processed it. This had gone far. How everything changed. Knowing I slept with my girlfriend's best friend. It should have felt like crossing a line. But all I could think about was how good that felt. This was no meaningless rebound. An impetuous mistake. She turned, raising herself on her elbow, looking at me. What are we going to do? She inquired quietly but steadily. Staring at the ceiling, I sighed. I should have replied. I should have felt guilt, conflict, etc. I only felt relief. After weeks of choking in Sophie's wreckage, I could breathe. I don't know, I said. Emma paused, then asked. I don't regret it. Do you? That insane thing? I didn't. Not even briefly. I saw things clearly for the first time since this open relationship tragedy began. Our demise wasn't my fault. I did not break trust. Maybe I deserve someone who wants me. Just me. Sophie's going to lose it when she finds out, remarked I. Probably, Emma said. But isn't it funny how she thinks it's perfectly fine for her to date other people, but the idea of you doing the same would drive her crazy? It was her point. And then I thought, maybe Sophie should take her medicine. I didn't tell Sophie about Emma immediately. Part of me wanted to watch her reaction to hints first. Maybe that was petty. After seeing her show off with different guys for weeks, I thought she deserved to experience that. After Emma left, Sophie returned from staying at Jessica's place. Jessica was probably Jason, but whatever. She chatted about her girlfriend's night while pouring coffee. The first hint was dropped then. Oh, Emma stopped by last night, I casually said. We had a really good talk. Sophie's coffee pot grasp froze. Emma was here? Yeah, we hung out for a while. She's really easy to talk to, you know? Sophie dropped her coffee mug too hard, spilling some on the counter. What did you guys talk about? Just stuff, I shrugged. Life, relationships, feelings, it was nice. Her expression was priceless. Her next hour was spent contacting someone, likely trying to gain specifics from Emma, while pretending to watch TV with me. She looked at me every few minutes, trying to figure out what occurred. Over the next 3 days, I mentioned Emma more. She was hilarious. Her genuine understanding. How we texted. Sophie would always have a tight look, like she was trying not to respond but couldn't. Sophie almost ran across the couch when I smiled at my phone while emailing Emma one morning. Who are you texting? She inquired, failing spectacularly at casualness. Just Emma, I said. She's really into this new show I recommended. Sophie tried to grin but seemed in anguish. You guys have been talking a lot lately. Yeah. She's great to talk to. Really gets me, you know. Sophie started checking my phone when I left it sitting around. She thought she was sneaking, but I caught her browsing through my texts when I was in the bathroom or kitchen. The amusing part? I removed all Emma-related evidence. I left enough pleasant text to make her suspicious and insane. Sophie began appearing at my known locations. I would mention getting coffee at this cafe near work, and she would simply show up. Or she would arrive an hour after I said I was meeting friends at a bar, saying she was in the neighborhood. Best part? Self-date cancellations began. She suddenly came home more. I want to watch movies. Cook dinner together. It was like witnessing someone mark their territory without acknowledging it. She came straight out with it after many attempts to get closer, which I always blocked. Are you seeing someone else? Isn't that kind of the point of an open relationship? I ask. To see other people, yeah. But who is it? Is it Emma? Are you sleeping with Emma? I only answered. I thought we weren't supposed to share details about our other partners. Isn't that what you said when I asked about your dates? Sophie faltered. She looked at my Instagram followers. likes, and online interactions. She obsessively read Emma's social media posts and stories. Emma's coffee shop selfie was the final blow. Coffee establishment where I have my morning coffee. Sophie rang me immediately. Are you with Emma right now? Sophie, I'm at work. But you always get coffee at that place in the morning. Did you meet her there? Let her panic, then said. That coffee shop has, like, 1,000 customers every day. People can go to the same coffee shop without it meaning anything. Sophie wasn't convinced. She often asked where I was heading. The person I saw. What I did. She demanded to know my every move after weeks of arriving home late from dates and never telling me who she was with. Emma laughed at Sophie's behavior when I told her. We met discreetly at her house so Sophie wouldn't see us. I quickly lost my doubts about hooking up with her and felt justified. She really can't handle not being in control, can she? Emma asked one night while we sat on her couch. Okay, nope, I said. And the best part? She can't even complain about it without admitting she never actually wanted an open relationship. She just wanted permission to cheat. Sophie switched tactics. One night at home, she dropped a bomb that changed everything. Closed relationship proposal. I think we should close the relationship again. I saw Sophie sit on our couch, appearing serious and anxious, telling me we should focus on us again. The same person who had been dating randomly for weeks was now sitting there, acting like she was helping me. I think we've explored enough, she murmured, taking my hand, pulling it away. We could go back to how things were before. Just you and me. It made me laugh. Just you and me? Like the past few weeks never happened? Well, yeah, she answered, confused by my response. Isn't that what you wanted? You haven't seemed happy with the open relationship. I quit playing games then. You're right, I haven't been happy. Watching my girlfriend go on dates with a new guy every other night while barely acknowledging my existence. Her face did this odd thing because she wanted to look empathetic but failed. I know it was hard for you, but that's why I'm saying we should close things up again. We can work on ourselves. Work on us, I repeated. Like how you've been working on getting to know half the guys in this city. That's not fair, she defended. You agreed to the open relationship. You could have been dating too. Oh, I have been, I responded, observing her look. I've been seeing someone. Sophie paled. Really pale. What? Who? Does it matter? Isn't that what you wanted? Both of us are exploring and having new experiences. She leapt from the couch. Of course it matters. Who the hell is it? How long? Her eyes expanded. It's Emma, isn't it? I sat and let her spiral. She ran her hands through her hair and paced our living room. It is Emma, isn't it? That's why you've been talking about her so much. That's why she's been avoiding my calls. My best friend? Leaning back. Really funny how you're allowed to sleep with whoever you want, but the moment I do the same, it's a problem. But it's Emma, she cried. She's my best friend. You can't sleep with my best friend. Standing, I looked her in the eye. Actually, I can. And I did. Sophie froze. She looked at me like she couldn't believe what she heard. What did you just say? I slept with Emma. Multiple times, actually. And you know what? It was great. She actually cares about my feelings, which is more than I can say for you lately. Sophie's face turned from disbelief to wrath in 2 seconds. You're lying. Emma would never do that to me. Really? Because she did. Want to know what else? She's had feelings for me for years. Even when she was dating Mark, she was thinking about me. You're lying to hurt me, Sophie remarked. I saw doubt in her eyes. I'm not. I witnessed realization. Remember last Thursday, when you were out with that startup guy? Sophie nodded slowly. Emma came over. We talked for hours. Then we slept together. She sees me as a person, not just some backup plan waiting at home while you live your best life. Sophie took out her phone, likely to call Emma. Not believing you? Emma would never? Check your texts with her, I encouraged. Notice her recent distance? Unresponsive to your messages? For that reason. She looked through her phone anxiously, possibly seeing Emma's ignored messages and short replies in a new light. This can't be happening, she said. This isn't how this was supposed to go. Really? How should it go? You party with other guys while I stay home as the loyal boyfriend? Was it impossible that I would find someone else? Not Emma. No, Emma, she shouted. You knew it would hurt. Lost it then. Do you hurt? How much have you wounded me? Did you ever consider how it felt to watch you dress up for other guys, Come home late smelling like someone else's fragrance, and barely look at me? She protested. That was different. Those guys didn't mean anything. That improve it? While you had meaningless hookups, I developed serious affections for someone? I wanted to drop hints to make her feel the heat she gave me. Staring at me, she paused. Real feelings? Yeah. True sentiments. Emma and I go beyond physical. We chat, we chuckle, really care about each other. When was the last time we talked about something other than dating or new experiences? Sophie slumped defeated on the couch. What are you saying? Want to be with Emma? This open relationship situation revealed my true desires. This person doesn't ignore me. Then she cried. Big dramatic sobs would have worked on me a month ago, but all I could think about was how she hadn't cried over how much she'd wounded me. She sobbed. We can fix this. We can go back to how things were. Shaking my head. We can't. Because now I know what it's like to be valued. I won't settle for less. Sophie did something unexpected then. She stormed out with her keys. I'm going to Emma's place to sort this out once and for all. Sophie slammed the door, so I grabbed my phone to tell Emma. I told her Sophie was coming, and she said, let her come. Emma's always been serene, nothing shakes her. I offered support by coming over. No, Emma responded, I must handle this. 10 years as my best friend. I owe her a lot. I spent the next hour pacing around our apartment, checking my phone every 2 minutes. It felt uncomfortable, like when a storm is coming and the air gets thick. Emma called finally, shakily. She came screaming, Emma said. My neighbors undoubtedly heard everything. She kept screaming about how I betrayed her, was a bad friend, and planned this. You said what? He told her the truth. That I had feelings for you for years but never acted on them since she was my friend. Watching Mom treat you like garbage these last weeks made me realize she never deserved us. Our relationship wasn't intended, but I don't regret it. Sophie didn't like that. She tried to force into my apartment, stating she needed to see whether you were there. She accused me of hiding you when I blocked the door. She's completely lost it, Emma added. She listed all the random occasions we hung out to illustrate we'd been sneaking around for months. She even mentioned your couch moving help last year. Like when she was too busy working to help? Sophie seemed to think any encounter with Emma and I was evidence of an affair. Emma brought me soup when I had the flu, a cover for hooking up. Our group movie nights are just an opportunity to get close. She began crying, Emma said, like sliding down my doorframe crying. Claims she never intended this. My neighbor checked on me. It was humiliating. After Mrs. Chen threatened to call the police over the disturbance, Sophie left. She told Emma she'd ruined everything and would never forgive her. Sophie returned to our house 20 minutes after my call with Emma. She looked awful. She entered and saw me sending Emma updates on my phone and lost it. Are you texting her now? Plan your next gathering? Since when have you two laughed at me behind my back? Sophie, no one's laughing at you. You harmed yourself. I did nothing. I suggested an open relationship to strengthen us, she cried, tossing her pocketbook across the room. I never told you to sleep with my best buddy. No, I said. You just wanted permission to sleep with whoever you wanted while keeping me as your backup plan. She grabbed our photos and gifts and put them in a box. I'm staying with Jessica. My true pal. Someone who wouldn't backstab me. Fine by me, I add. Take whatever you want. That paused her. Just that? Not even try to stop me? Would I? You've stated that you value something other than me or our relationship. She stopped packing and sat on the couch, visibly shrinking. I believed you would always be there. That no matter who I dated, you'd be there when I settled down. The truth ultimately emerged. She experimented without me, but I was her backup plan and promised a happy ending. Well, you guessed wrong, I informed her. I'm not a puppy waiting by the door while you have fun. I have emotions. I deserve more than second place. But you weren't my second pick. I adore you. No, Sophie. You adore having me around when convenient. Differences exist. Her wailing resumed, but I didn't feel anything. Not wanting to soothe her, not guilty, nothing, emptiness. I'll get the rest of my stuff tomorrow, she said, taking up her box. I can't be here right now. After she departed, I called Emma. Just hearing her voice calmed me. That night, we chatted about Sophie, ourselves, and the future for hours. Some of their mutual friends were already taking sides, with most dubbing Emma a backstabber without knowing the full tale. I don't care, she said. Think what you want. I know reality. In my half-empty apartment, I noticed Sophie's stuff were gone. I was relieved. Like I could breathe again. I urged Emma, come over. Settle with me. Yes, she agreed. I was done caring. The next morning Sophie picked up her items. She brought Jessica and 2 other unfamiliar pals. Sophie had told them her story, so they looked at me like I was the bad person while helping her pack. I bought your Xbox for your birthday, she remarked, unplugging it. Fine. Take it. I didn't care anymore. Emma arrived halfway through packing after reading between the lines when I texted her about coffee. Sophie's pals whispered when Emma entered, but Emma ignored them and offered me my coffee. Really? You'll show me this? Sophie snapped. Emma remarked, nobody's flaunting anything. I'm just here to support my boyfriend. Neither of us had used the word before. Sophie appeared slapped. Packing got faster after that. Sophie's companions rushed around, gathering belongings, likely to get her out before another meltdown. After finishing, Sophie stood in the doorway. I really loved you, she whispered. No, I said. You liked having me on call, differences exist. Emma helped tidy up after they departed. You okay? She questioned, watching me put Sophie's stuff in a donation box. Yeah. First time in months, I am. 2 weeks later. Life has changed since then. Better. Emma and I are doing things right but slowly. We had coffee at Sophie's favorite restaurant last weekend and saw other pals. Ignored us completely. Emma smiled and squeezed my hand. Sophie continues to tell everyone how I cheated. Emma betrayed her, and we always desired each other. Some believe her. Important people don't. Emma brought over her kindergartner's artwork to decorate my fridge yesterday. Too empty, she said. I noticed something in those crayon drawings. This is my wish. Someone who notices details. Who cares about warming my place? Who brings coffee because I didn't answer her text? Instead, I graded Emma's class papers while we watched her new favorite mystery show. Simple, normal, real. Looking back, Sophie's open relationship suggestion was almost helpful, because that wasn't a good idea. But because it revealed my ideal companion. Someone picks me first. Not just when convenient. The thing about life. The worst choices can lead to the best locations. For me, to the proper person. She was always there. Edit. Thanks Reddit for your support. Emma is reading this over my shoulder, chuckling at my description of her. She's constantly happy. By the way, she says hello. A player's mom nearly ruined my D&D game, but instead led me to love, friendship and a new role as Uncle Caleb in a found family. Original post September 13, 2024. I run 2 D&D games. One I run at a local game shop. It is family friendly and I welcome anyone who can behave and take a shower. Second game is run at my house with me and my 4 oldest friends. We get drunk and screw around in the campaign. It's a campaign we have been running since 5e first came out and is very much built around our terrible humor. Very not public play space friendly. New player is a nice 9-year-old kid named Simon. He loves playing in my public game and found out I run another game. Asked if he could join and I told him it wasn't really open to new players. He was cool about it. Simon is a good kid. Simon's mom found out later when she picked him up and tried to force him into my other game. I had to get the owner to help me calm her down and get her to leave. Simon was in tears apologizing. I felt so bad for him. Owner told mom if she ever set foot in his store again he'd ban her and Simon from the store and get the police involved if he had to. She left in a hurry and almost boned a car in her rush to leave. Simon's dad drops him off now. He came to me and the owner and begged for our forgiveness. Turns out mom wanted Simon in my game as a form of babysitting so she could go out and party with her other terrible mom friends. We told him as long as it's him dropping Simon off there won't be any issues. He's a good kid, and I'd hate to lose our monk. TLDR, I run 2 games. One is kid-friendly, the other is private at my home. Kid wanted private games. I said no. Mom got mad and ruined everyone's day because she is a bad person. Edit. Thanks for indulging in my drama sharing. Love the hobby. Simon is a great little dude. His dad is a great big dude. Glad to have met them. Thanks everyone for letting me spam replies and shoot the breeze. You're all great. Update September 17th, 2024. If I have any updates on things I'll post on my profile so as to not spam unrelated things on various subreddits. Original post here. Hey everyone. It has been pure chaos the last few days, but after everyone was so nice I figured I'd let you guys know what has happened since it's mostly good news and should put some minds at ease. I ran into Simon's dad and his sister Anna at the store and they invited me out to lunch to chat. Simon's doing pretty well all things considered. Dad says he and mom were already most of the way through the divorce process, but he and his almost ex-wife agreed to keep it quiet until they had finalized some agreements. Mom showed her ass yet again and basically admitted she didn't want Simon very often and negotiated for some money in exchange for giving full custody to dad with a few holiday visitations, if she can make it. She's moving a few states away to live with some of her friends from college. He doubts they see her more than once a year if that. He said it went as well as he could have hoped. He's just glad it's almost over. Auntie Anna, as Simon calls her, is Dad's sister. She's stepping in to help with Simon while Dad juggles everything. She brought him to the shop this weekend and she hung out by me while I ran the game so she could learn. Everyone had a good time. Even got a few giggles from Anna, so I'll consider that a GM's job well done for first impressions of the hobby. Shame the first RP she had to see was me as Marty, the farty lizard folk merchant NPC that they ran into last session. Lots of hissing and farting noises out of me for 15 minutes. Simon was able to pass enough con saves to buy what the party needed from Marty, discounts in exchange for risk of poison damage, and they tricked the corrupt town guard into accidentally arresting themselves due to an elaborate performance by the bard and Simon's monk. Game went well. Anna and I talked while Simon looked at all the dice sets for an hour after the game. She's been pulled into a parent group of parents of kids in Simon's class. I guess Simon has all the other kids wanting to try playing, and since my private game is on hiatus for at least 6 months, I offered to run one if the parents were comfortable with it. I end up getting added to the group chat and Anna's house is where we're gaming. Next day Anna and I met up for lunch and I helped her put together a gaming space in her living room. A few of the moms came by to drop off some snacks and to introduce themselves in person. I feel like I've been adopted into a family of families, but I don't even have a family of my own. Everyone has been great. I'm so glad Simon is surrounded by these people and not people like his mom. The kids were all very well behaved. Anna and I were a bit nervous being the chaperones for a bunch of kids, but Simon's friends are great. They all had a blast making characters and doing the test encounters I had for them. There's a girl that made certain she was always seated next to Simon and barely took her eyes off him. She has a huge crush on him, but doesn't think he even realizes what's going on. It's adorable. Parents were all happy with game night, and honestly I liked running for all kids way more than I had expected. Anna and I agreed we were fine with doing this regularly, so now Anna and I are the game masters to everyone. Also, I'm now Uncle Caleb to Simon. Not sure what I did to earn the title, and I definitely didn't get emotional when he called me that. So that's about it. I still run 2 games. I've been adopted by a 9-year-old. And I've taken over Anna's living room with minis and battle mats. Simon is an incredible little dude and I'm glad to have met him and his amazing family, one parent excluded. TLDR, mostly good news for Simon and his family. I've been adopted into said family somehow, and I'm now running a game for a bunch of Simon's friends in place of my private home game for the time being. Edit. Thanks again, folks. Like I said in a comment earlier, I don't foresee there being anything else to update on that would be relevant to this sub, so barring some other bizarre incident happening to me while I'm gaming, I suppose this is me fading into the background. I think I smell something. Oh God, Marty's back. Edit 2, just gonna sneak this in here because people are actually messaging me like crazy and I wanna just state my status with Anna. I am deeply infatuated with her. I could just go on about her like a love-struck puppy, but I'm embarrassing myself enough as it is. We've got a busy next couple weeks ahead of us, but luckily for me a lot of that busy time will be spent with her working on things for Simon and the game nights. So for now I'm gonna let things be, give us time to know each other better. We've been texting pretty regularly the last few days, and I'm starting to think there's something here. Once things calm down I fully intend to ask her on a date. Too many folks in my life and on here telling me I'd be an idiot not to. Also spoke with Drew, Simon's dad, this morning and he's doing alright. Said he'll be better in a few weeks when he's able to take some vacation. Gonna take Simon on a father-son trip for a few days. He's exhausted. Even with the reduced workload he's just now getting time to rest. Poor guy needs it. New updates. I've fallen really hard for a woman I just met. September 27th, 2024. It's been a week. I've known this woman for about a week and I've already fallen hard. Infatuation levels are all set to max. She's incredible. Gonna be spending a lot of time with her for a few weeks and I and a lot of folks we know are saying I should ask her out. I'm going to. I just want to let us get through this busy point and take a bit of time to get to know her more first before I do that. If anyone sees this September 22nd, 2024, I'm just going to update here if I have any good news to share at some point. Update for anyone still curious. October 4th, 2024. Hello everyone. While this is an update originating from a post on RPG horror stories, there isn't much of a horror story anymore. Just some updates on my situation and the people in my life. I wasn't expecting as much interest after the initial drama, but I've also been made aware just how much of a dense goober I am, partially thanks to folks on Reddit pointing some things out. My nephew Simon is the coolest little dude in the universe. His interest in board games is starting to really take off ever since Anna brought him over to my place and he saw my shelf of games. He absolutely loves Ticket to Ride. I gave it to him and he wants to play it next game night. The public game party is now chasing the big bad through a few portals leading to a chronomancer's domain in the stomach of a kraken. So that should be fun. Simon has expressed interest in learning to DM. I'll teach him everything I know. I would gladly play in any campaign that boy runs. He said he has some ideas and I intend to help him make those into dice-based reality. As for how he's handling the situation with his mom, Simon is doing well, but he struggles. He's very clingy toward Drew. I'm betting this is normal for kids in Simon's situation. Simon has Drew, Anna, and a good head on his shoulders. He'll be fine. Drew and Simon spend a lot of their time together just doing little projects. They're currently putting together a puzzle while watching Simon's shows. Drew told me this was a once-a-month thing due to his work schedule. Now it's several times a week and they both love it. Drew did need a little time to decompress from dad mode, so one night he and I went out to a bar for a few drinks. He told me about his plans to take Simon out of town on a father-son trip. Simon's just excited the hotel has a pool. Drew says he doesn't plan to date or do anything anytime soon. The ink's still dry on the divorce papers. I think being a single dad is what I want to be right now. He wants to focus on Simon and figuring out what life looks like for them going forward. As for Anna, she was initially busy balancing work, Simon, game nights, and a bunch of other responsibilities since she stepped up to help Drew. Things stabilized a lot faster than anyone expected, with the divorce resolving smoothly and Simon being the easiest child in the world to take care of. Now that Drew is using vacation time, she has had a bit more free time until he goes back to full-time work. So she's been catching up on some of her hobbies like baking and playing games on her Switch. I had to come over and run the cables to hook it up to her TV because she couldn't reach it. She also needed my help setting up her Wi-Fi when she got a new router. And she has had multiple issues with her laptop that I've had to resolve for her. That woman is brilliant in every other regard, but truly clueless when it comes to tech. But I was paid for my ticket resolutions in homemade meals. So I'll call it even. The more time I spent with Anna, the more confident I got that asking her out was the right call. So I asked her out and she said yes. Unfortunately, Anna gets migraines semi-regularly and one hit her just before our date. I came over and she was visibly miserable, but trying to convince me it was okay and we'd still go out. I practically had to order her to go get into bed. Got her migraine pills and some water for her. Blacked out the curtains and told her to call if she needed anything. She called me a few hours later asking for something to eat because she was feeling better, so I got her some dinner and ate with her. She kept trying to apologize, but I told her to make it up to me with another date the next day. Which we were able to actually go on. It was a fantastic night. Had some amazing food and walked around town and talked, then went back to drop her off and we sat out in my car for another hour and talked. The last thing she said before getting out and running in was, "You're my boyfriend now, by the way," before shutting the door. I had no intention to argue even if she'd left me time to. Since then we've gone on a few more dates in our free time and we're both really happy with how things are going. It turns out Anna was a few days away from asking me out herself if I didn't make a move. She also hasn't stopped teasing me about Marty and his farts. And I told her about the werewolf Pierre Wolf I'm using soon and she won't stop patting my head and calling me the good boy. I'm not giving her character previews anymore. I guess that's it. In the last few weeks my life has changed so drastically it's insane. This may be strange to say, but thank you for sharing in this internet sharing circle thing that this became for me. I ended my relationship after my ex secretly bought an $87K truck, and now he has also returned it. I'm very annoyed. He didn't even speak to me about it. We had so many discussions about moving in together, getting married, and then he goes and purchases a truck $2K more than his yearly salary. If you're asking how a truck can be $87K, that's the price you get when you put every addition you want on it. He showed me the truck expecting me to be excited and I was livid. When he bought this truck, we were only a month from moving in together. We got into a bad argument where he told me it was his money and he could do whatever he wanted with it. So I said fine and I told him I'm not comfortable moving in with him anymore. I asked my landlord if my apartment was still available and if I could renew my lease and they said yes. Now my BF is saying he can't afford his place and his truck. I don't feel bad. You should have thought of that before buying something so expensive without talking to your GF of 2 years. I have had some of his friends' GF reach out to me and say I should support him, and one even says that I'm not loyal, and this shows I wouldn't support him if we were married since I run away when finances get bad. That's bullshit. He didn't lose his job or get hurt. He bought an expensive item without discussing it. I have been trying to get him to return the truck because it's already affecting his finances badly. He has only had this truck for 2 weeks and he is worried that in the next month or two, he won't be able to cover all the expenses he usually has. This past weekend, we had another argument and I think our relationship is going to end. I'm not helping him pay for this truck and I'm not moving in with him. I have asked for a break and will be thinking about what to do. Edit. I appreciate the different opinions everyone has given me. I have a lot to think about. To answer 2 questions, no, he doesn't need the truck. He works from home and if he has to check in at work, he has an office. Also, his friends and their girlfriends know about this issue because he asked for their views when we went to a get-together last week. Only 2 GFS reached out to me to tell me I wasn't being supportive. The others have minded their business. Comments. Comment 1. Good job recognizing a bad situation when you see one. This dude fully expected you to supplement his lifestyle after moving in together. All his money would have gone to paying that truck, leaving you stuck with the lion's share of the bills. And that's why he's panicking now. Stay in your own apartment, OP. Comment 2. And he had the audacity to say that it was his money and he could do what he wanted with it, knowing full well he would have to live out of the truck if OP didn't supplement for him. Really tells you what he thinks about OP's money, that it's his money too. Entitled ass. I would dump him so hard. Comment 3. Reeks of my money is mine but your money is ours. Dump any moron who spends $1,700 a month on a 5-year loan for a toy while being unable to make rent. Update. 6 days later. Yay, so I broke up with him mainly because I realized we aren't financially compatible. Before I go into what happened, I do want to say something. I understand we weren't married but we were both moving together into a new place and had several discussions about this move and our plans for the future, including marriage. For the people private messaging me saying it's his money and he can do whatever he wants, or, you're only 2 years into a relationship, you're not a wife. I know that, and I have never asked what is in his bank account or told him what to do financially. I'm aware it is his money, but I also know his financial situation and he was making decisions without my input that, if we were to stay together, would not only affect him but also our relationship and our financial situation for years to come. I will die on this hill. This is not okay, and if it's okay for you, that's fine, but for me, if we make a financial plan and you make a huge decision without me, I won't be okay with it, and that's a big reason why I backed out of moving into a new apartment with him. I would have never made a decision like this without his input at all. The main reason why we decided to move in together was to take the next step in our relationship but also to pay down our debts. I now have $22,000 debt from student loans and a car. When I met him though, it was around $60,000 and I was basically living on credit cards. Within the first couple of months of us dating, I saw how hard he worked, and with a salary of $85,000, he was making huge progress in paying off his loans and credit cards. On my end at the time, I was only making $50,000. I honestly saw his work ethic and was like wow, and got serious about my debt. I got a second part-time job where I was making $32,000 a year, bringing my salary to $82,000. I did that so that I could pay off my debts faster, but also so that we could be on equal footing when we moved in together and he didn't have to pay significantly more in living expenses than me when he had more debt. We did a complete budget months before we moved in together and realized that we would each have $700 extra a month to put towards our own individual budgets. This is why the purchase of this truck was so surprising to me. We had planned this move for months. We had a budget and he destroyed that plan with the truck. If he wanted a new car, there are plenty of cars he could have gotten that would have fit into the $700 monthly surplus he had. Anyway, for the past few days before we broke up, he tried to show me that this truck was a good financial purchase and we could still move in together. He told me that he had actually budgeted for this and could show me how he could afford this. I wanted to hear him out, so I went to his place and he had 2 budgets. He said he had been thinking of getting this truck for some time and he had worked out a budget beforehand. He showed me the first budget, and after his truck, insurance, expenses, and his debts, he was left with $115 for the month. I noticed with the first budget, he didn't include groceries, his hobbies, going out, or even gas for his car. I asked him how $115 was enough to live off of for an entire month. I asked him how he could afford all of this and his truck, and if he planned to give up some things. He said no, he didn't plan to give up anything and that he could make everything work in his budget. I asked him what if he had an emergency or needed gas for his truck, and he just kept saying he would work it out without explaining how. After I saw the first budget, I asked to see the documents for the car, and that's how I found out the truck price was $95K total after taxes, registration and fees. He traded in his reliable 2003 Toyota and all his savings to get a loan at 14% for 72 months. His monthly payment is now $1966 and insurance is $573. He also still has student loans which are significant. I kept telling him $115 left over monthly wasn't enough. That's when he showed me his second budget, which had a combined higher monthly income. I asked him if he was getting a second job, and he said due to his job relying on him to be on call, he couldn't. I asked where the income was coming from, and this man said, "Well, you're getting a raise soon." I froze because I had mentioned this raise once months ago. My first job is my career job, and I work in a field where when you hit certain milestones, you get a pay bump. In September, if my raise is approved, I will go from 50K to 80K, and with my second job, my total yearly income will be 112K. But getting the raise isn't a guarantee. You have to meet certain criteria, and if you don't, you have to wait 3 months before trying again. When he said that, I was quiet, and then I said, "So you planned a budget that included additional income that I wouldn't get for at least 6 months and income that I might not even get in September?" He said when I got my raise, the ratio of what he would pay would decrease and he would have more disposable income. I asked him why it was okay for him to plan budgets with my income, but yet I had no say in how he spent his. He couldn't answer that. I told him I had no issue with paying more bills if I got a raise, but the fact that he banked on that, didn't discuss it, and now expects me to be okay with this is ridiculous. I also said there's no way I wouldn't be paying more with the first budget because he wouldn't have been able to survive on $115. I told him he didn't communicate, and this is on him because he made huge financial plans without discussing anything. Finally, I told him I would never have done any of this without going to him first because I thought we were a team that was building something. I ended things the next day, and he has been trying to reach out, but I'm not interested. He has financially crippled himself with this truck. If with my income now he could barely make it, he sure isn't making it on his own. I really hope that things work out for him and he is able to keep his truck and recover, but I'm not paying the consequences for such a massive financial mistake that is going to hugely affect him for years to come. If I were to stay, this financial decision affects me as well and would continue to affect both of us for years. Again, this is different from becoming ill or losing a job. He chose this and refuses to budge and fix it. I now realize we are not financially compatible, and that's okay, and I wish him the best. Edit. Thanks everyone for all the support. I don't hate my ex, and I really hope he's able to recover from this. It was such a learning lesson for me and how one mistake can ruin you financially. It has made me even more cautious, but also determined to keep working towards a better financial future for myself. Comments. Comment 1, you are very smart. I have a wife like you and we are going to retire comfortably because of that. Comment 2, people who will give her grief over this either have no idea how marriage is supposed to work or are bad with their finances. Financial incompatibility is a huge deal in relationships, and she is being incredibly mature here. Comment 3. All I have to ask is, how are you handling this with so much grace? I would be pissed if my ex, who I was so emotionally invested in, pulled this on me. It's not just that he made an irresponsible decision, it's the fact that he thought he could leech off you and your money to pay for it and somehow blindside you to get away with that. You don't badmouth him a single time and did the right thing immediately, break up, and have already accepted that you both are incompatible. I'm in awe of how decisive and yet non-aggressive you were. I wish I could be that way. OP. To answer your question about why I'm not bad-mouthing him, it's because I'm sad. I'm sad about what he did to himself and that I had to leave because he isn't seeing how bad this is. I'm sad that just a few months ago, I was planning on living together in a life and now that's gone. Most of all, I'm sad for him. He was doing so well and he rubbed off on me immensely in terms of paying off debt and watching your spending. I'm sad that he threw away all his hard work. Dumping on him even more isn't worth it because when he realizes this mistake, it will be so bad for him. I don't see a point to do it, but I'm not judging anyone who would in these circumstances. New update. 7 months later. Update. I posted a few months ago about ending my relationship with my ex who bought an $87K truck without telling me. Going ahead with that decision means that I paid off my student loans this past month. He also returned the truck. Hi everyone. So I posted a few months about a situation I was dealing with my ex and him buying a car without telling me. I really doubted myself when I first made my first post because I had received such strong negative reactions from other people about me wanting to back out of the move. I appreciate the comments I got not only on the posts but through the messages as well. It really helped solidify for me that these feelings I had about the situation shouldn't be ignored. So thank you guys for responding because it saved me financially. Looking back at the situation now months later, I can see that I was being set up to be financially abused. When I broke up with my ex, I thought that we were financially incompatible and that unfortunately it took this large purchase to see it. But I can see now, that's not the case. My ex made a plan in his head and what made sense to him was for me to pay most of the expenses and he thought this was okay and that I should be okay with it too. Even though I can see the reality of what he was trying to do, I can't hate my ex because he helped start me on this path of looking at my finances. I remember when we first started dating and I went to pay for an item I was getting and my card declined and without batting an eye, even though it was a little embarrassing, I took out another card and paid. I was used to this happening every once in a while, because I was literally living paycheck up to paycheck. I'm not putting down anyone where that's the case. But in my situation then, I was living way above my means. I would justify every single want and get it and I thought because I was making minimum payments and on time, I wasn't as bad as the next person. When the situation with my card happened, after we got back to my ex's car, he kindly asked if this type of thing happens all the time and I told him sometimes and he basically gave me advice. He did not try to force me to stop spending. He asked me to track my purchases and recommended a few apps. The first 2 months that we were seeing each other, he would encourage me every other day or every once in a while, to just track what I spent, to shop like I usually did, but to track everything. Being able to see how much I was spending, especially when I broke it down into categories, was astounding. There was one month I spent $68 on bagels. It wasn't for work. It wasn't for other people. It was me stopping at a bagel place every morning and getting a bagel. I would sometimes get variations, which is why the bagels cost so much. Once I realized how much I was spending on stupid things, my ex helped me make a plan that would work for me and that plan has continued to consistently work. I have added to it and changed things or tweaked things as my financial status has continued to improve, and so far, so good. This is why I don't have any bad feelings about my ex. He never pushed for me to pay my bills in front of him. He never saw credit card statements on apps, nothing. He only kept encouraging me to look at my finances and fix them. He helped give me the foundation to start to manage my finances and I thought in my head that we were on the same page. And because he was such a stickler for finances and he was so frugal, that is why this truck purchase was such a surprise to me. It was unplanned, not discussed, was a large amount of money and, just knowing the general view of how much debt he had, I know without a doubt that there was no way he could afford this truck. I'm not trying to paint my ex as a saint. I am explaining why he had such a positive impact on me financially. So when the truck purchase happened, and he refused to budge, I honestly was shocked and seeing how bad this situation was, I had to walk away. It's been about 6 months since everything's happened and I'm doing very well. I recently paid off my student loans last month. I now only have my car left, so 12 grand left to pay. I also have a small savings. Because of that, I have changed the focus and I'm putting the majority of my income now towards my car. I'm not rich by any means, but I'm definitely living within my means and I'm okay with that. The last 2 things I'm updating on are my raise and my ex's truck. I had a few people message me about the raise and unfortunately I did not get it due to a big mistake I made on a project. Once I realized the mistake, I knew that it would jeopardize things for my raise because I had made the mistake so close to my evaluation and I didn't get the raise. But I fixed the mistake, and when I get re-evaluated after 3 months I am hopeful I will get it this time. Losing the possibility of the raise made me realize even more that I had made the right decision because I would be so screwed right now if I hadn't ended my relationship. With my ex, we have spoken once and that is when we broke up. I cut communication completely, because he was still trying to fix things without addressing the truck and the fact that he was keeping it. I know from a person close to him that actually 4 months after we broke up, he did a voluntary repossession. I also know the truck is gone, because he deleted all the pictures he had of it. I was actually relieved to hear that for him because he can hopefully start to fix the situation he got himself in. I really do want the best for my ex and I don't know the thought process that led to him getting this truck, or what could have influenced him, but hopefully he can get back to where he was and make more improvements. The relationship is finished and there is no hope of rekindling anything. Even though he returned the truck, I could never go back to him because the trust is gone. It wasn't only the money. It was also him making such a vital decision without me, expecting me to go along with it and then vilifying me when I had viable concerns. I can't move past that. Yes, money isn't everything, but I can't stop thinking about what my life would be like now had I stayed. My student loans would not be paid off. We would both be broke. We would both be in worse off financial positions. All of these things would have affected the relationship negatively, which would have made it unhealthy. I'm glad we broke up and I have forgiven him for what he tried to do to me. I stand and I will continue to stand by the view that finances are a breakable offense, especially when your partner isn't listening to you and does something that will affect both of you. If you don't agree, that's fine, but these last few months have proved that to me. So that's my longish update, and again, I really want to say thank you guys for responding to my first post. I honestly was leaning towards staying with him and not moving in, and I think in the long run, I would have been financially devastated and taken advantage right now, and because of the different opinions I read, it made me realize how bad not only the situation was, but also how bad it could get, so thanks. A very, 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 very small, humble brag. I posted my paid in full student loan email on my profile, so if you want to see that you can click that post but you don't have to. Sorry, I'm just so proud of that fact. Okay, bye. Comments. Comment 1. Congratulations on paying off your loans. Glad you stuck to your decision and things working out for you. Comment 2. I can tell you what motivated or was the catalyst for his decision to buy the truck. It was you mentioning your possible raise. He always wanted the truck, but learning you'd be making more, he jumped the gun and purchased it in advance. He was betting on the raise, he didn't think of the possibility that you wouldn't get it. He thought it was a guarantee. Honestly, be glad he did it when he did. Could you imagine if he waited until you did move in together? Then you'd be more trapped due to having signed a lease with him. He would have screwed your credit, even if you couldn't help him pay for the truck. Having your name on the lease and him not paying his portion would affect you. He also would have guilted you into helping by paying more even if you still only made the same amount because he'd be struggling. I couldn't imagine if you had gotten the raise, he'd probably guilt you into keeping your second job, because then you could help him more. Glad you stuck to your decision. I get it's his money to do with as he wishes. However, he seemed to think, as did those who sided with him, that your money was his too. That he could make decisions about your money and how it was spent, but you couldn't do the same. Honestly too, you didn't try to control his decision or his money. You were controlling what happened to your money. I discovered my ex-wife was feeding our kids turpentine daily and had to fight to protect them, gain custody and help them heal from the trauma. May 1st, 2021 on r/relationship_advice. I found this out, like I do most things about life with their mother, through the kids, M7 and F5, as communication has been pretty much non-existent between the ex and I since our split 6 years ago. Before anyone jumps to conclusions, no, I don't ever press my kids for information. I've worked very hard to establish an uninhibited, open, no topic is off limits type of relationship with my kids. Even though I've only got them every other weekend, I want them to feel comfortable enough to fully express themselves and speak their mind freely around me. This has led to several discoveries about certain aspects of their life that their mother has asked them not to reveal to me, something I'm very much against. I don't believe any child should have to hold secrets between their parents. It isn't their responsibility and is something I would never ask of them. That being said, they've come out with nuggets of wisdom such as we shouldn't be drinking tap water because the government puts chemicals in there that makes us docile and obedient. Santa isn't real. But Jesus is, and the Bible is 100% fact. Controversial topic, I understand. And most recently that the government says turpentine is poisonous but it is actually good for you. What the hell do I do here? If I speak to my ex about this, or even let slip that I know it's going on, she isn't going to have an honest conversation about it with me, and I fear that she'll just press the kids even harder to keep things from me. I don't want their heads filled with this rubbish, but I feel so powerless to stop this. All I can do is try to teach them to think critically, but that is only going to be so effective when they're getting told all this nonsense is fact. Help. Edit. I spoke to my children about it and recorded the conversation to ensure there was no confusion about what was being said. They were being fed a spoonful of turpentine every day by their nana for the past 4 weeks while they were all away on holidays, but there is zero chance my ex wasn't aware this was happening. Definitely turpentine. 100% pure gum turpentine. My boy said the bottle read. The distilled stuff, he said. They even started singing that Mary Poppins song, "A spoonful of sugar helps the turpentine go down." Feel like I'm in an alternate timeline. Thank you everyone for being so helpful. I appreciate it so much. Edit. The talk screen won't be happening until we get a referral. Poisons Hotline has no literature on hand for chronic exposure to turpentine, let alone in children, but the kids don't seem symptomatic. We will be visiting either a GP or the hospital first thing tomorrow for a full checkup, and a report will be made separately to that of the medical mandatory report. I don't really see a scenario playing out where CPS isn't getting involved here, and I can't not have my kids medically assessed knowing that this has been going on. Currently preparing for the shitstorm that's bound to ensue. Comments. Deleted user. Sorry, but you found out your ex-wife is poisoning your kids and your response is to get on Reddit instead of taking your kids to the hospital and contacting authorities. Hopefully this is as fake as it seems. OOP. Ex-wife. The kids seemed asymptomatic. Had I not been made aware of this, I probably would never have known anything was up. That being said, my mother is a nurse and we did have the kids looked at. Yes, I came to Reddit as one source among several for guidance because I had no f*c king clue what to do about this or even what my options were. I try not to act rash or emotionally impulsive when it comes to my children. I try to weigh up my options. My father has a muddy history, so even though he's not the same person he was 15 years ago, a CPS investigation has potential to forcefully alienate my children from their grandparents. That's just one example of what factors into this. I wish this were fake. Deleted user. What the fuck? Asymptomatic? Dude, they've told you she's poisoning them. You should have immediately taken them to the hospital, regardless of whether you can see symptoms. I don't care if your mom is a nurse, she can't run tests by looking at them. Anyway, I still am not convinced this is real, but if it is, what you just said about your dad makes this all more confusing and sketchy. Take your kids to the hospital and seek legal help. OOP, we spoke to the hospital man, we called ahead. There was literally nothing they were prepared to do for us other than what we had already done. They wouldn't run tests unless the kids were exhibiting symptoms or they had a referral, even after telling them what was going on. The nurse was very apologetic, but it is what it is. Best they could offer was a place 2 hours away that wouldn't open until tomorrow anyway. I know what you're saying, but it just isn't that simple. And yeah, I understand that seems sketchy. I guess it kind of is. There's no legal help I could possibly get on a Sunday evening and no way we could move things forward without rushing into it. We are going through everything tomorrow, properly and thoughtfully. Fast walking short guy, Jesus Christ. Record some evidence, send it to the cops, and have your ex imprisoned for child endangerment at the very least. This type of potato is going to start feeding them fucking bleach or urine sooner than later, not even joking. She is a dangerous level of stupid that your kids should not be forced to suffer. It is your responsibility to take action to protect them from her. OOP. Unfortunately, the only evidence I have is a second-hand verbal account of the testimony of a 7-year-old boy. He told my mother, his grandmother, who is a career nurse, who promptly told me what was going on. She's 50 shades deep into crazy conspiracy theories herself, and even she was mortified upon hearing this. My ex won't say or admit to anything, and I don't trust her to be honest. If her custody arrangement is on the line, it's all just conjecture at this point. Fast walking short guy, hire a private eye. Get evidence. It's your responsibility as a parent to protect your children. You can't be so passive. Do something. OOP. I agree, it is my responsibility. I have zero intention of being passive about this. I just see my current options hitting a lot of dead ends. That's why I've come here. If I'm going to go the legal route, I want to move it through clean. Calculated. No room for error. He said, she said BS won't even get me a seat in the courtroom. Private investigator could be something worth following up though. Thank you. Fish guts cake. Those poor kids. Good idea picking this idiot to mate with. OP. Yeah, look, I've got no good defense for that. Changed a lot after she got her ring though. There's a reason I'm not still with her. May 2nd, 2021 on ER Legal Advice and ROS Legal. So I just found out through my kids that my ex-wife has been feeding them turpentine mixed with sugar or honey as a way to warm them, and also been using it topically to treat mosquito bites. They are 7M and 5F, reading up on what it does if you ingest it, because who the hell would ever think it's a good idea to drink paint thinner as medicine? It can be devastating, and it really doesn't take a whole lot to mess you up, especially if you're a child. Think, 1 tablespoon could potentially be enough to change your life. I don't think talking to the ex is going to yield any results, and realistically I don't even expect her to be honest about it anyway. My only evidence so far is the second-hand account of the testimony of a 7-year-old boy. He told my mom his grandma and she went and told me. Do I have any legal options here? Should I be collecting evidence, and if so, what kind? I honestly don't know what to do. I can't have my kids being fed literal poison, and to top it off they were saying, yeah, the government tells us it's poison but it's actually good for you. This isn't the first time they've come out with little nuggets of conspiracy-soaked wisdom like this, tap water makes you docile and obedient sort of stuff, but this one is truly terrifying. They were meant to go back to their mother today, but I've got them in my care until next weekend due to an undisclosed emergency that my ex sprung on me about an hour ago. Never mind that I'm starting a new job tomorrow and wasn't prepared in any way to look after them for a week with no notice. But please, if anyone here can give me a few tips or pointers, I would be so grateful. I'm stressing pretty bad about this. I don't know what to do. Edit, I'm located in Victoria, Australia, if that makes any difference to the situation. May 2nd, 2021 on RR Ask Docs. So for the last 4 or so weeks my kids, 7M and 5F, have been ingesting a spoonful of turpentine every day, and been using it topically to treat mosquito bites. 100% gum turpentine. My boy said the bottle read, paint thinner. I've questioned them about it and I have zero doubt this was happening. Now I've wanted to book in for a tox screen and blood work but would have to travel 2 hours to get it done, the only other option being police and CPS, both unfavorable options, or seeing a GP. What am I in for here? What damage would chronic ingestion of turpentine cause a 7-yo or 5-yo child? What are the things I should look out for? Would terps even show up in a screen in such a small volume? And if there's anyone here from Victoria, Australia, would a GP be able to help initiate a tox screen? May 2nd, 2021 on Art of Toxicology. The contents of this post were not able to be recovered. However, this comment was deemed relevant, as it has information about turpentine therapy. Solomon Gilbert, MOD. I'm sorry to hear of this happening. Usually, we wouldn't allow medical advice requests, but this is an exception. Turpentine has been touted as an alternative medicine cure-all, as has been amplified by misinformation on the internet. Please seek immediate medical assistance from a trained healthcare professional and take any discussions surrounding medical advice here with an enormous pinch of salt. That said, this subject is very important to discuss and could help others who may have come across similar cases. OOP, my apologies. I will admit I didn't carefully look through the rules of this sub before posting. I did stumble across this particular school of thought this evening, unfortunately, whilst researching the effects of turpentine ingestion. It saddens me to learn of its existence, but honestly I'm not as surprised nor shocked as I feel I should be. Understandably, advice from strangers on the internet will never be a credible substitute for a trained professional opinion. Sorry guys. But I do appreciate your concern and the willingness of those who helped. Thank you. May 3rd, 2021 in a comment on the R Ask Docs post. Update on the situation. The kids have been medically assessed. They've had blood work done, testing for liver and kidney function, as well as any other abnormalities, and have undergone some minor testing. Thankfully, everything has come back clear and they seem to be happy and in good health, apart from my daughter being a little upset about being jabbed with needles. There were, however, some very concerning statements made by my kids to the doctors who screened them, both with and without any family present. Everything said has been transcribed and documented in their discharge papers. CPS has since been informed of the situation. The situation has been reported to the police and a medical release statement has been filed with them. They told me they would remain in contact with CPS and wait for their lead. The kids are legally staying within the care of myself and my family until further notice from Child Services. At this point in time, I've had no contact with my ex since this all came about. I have a tip on a great family law legal representative whom I will contact in the very near future to discuss my steps moving forward, and about making a claim for primary custodial care. My family fully supports this decision and we are all still incredibly shocked about this whole scenario. I am on the verge of having an absolute meltdown, but things actually seem okay for now. My kids are safe. I couldn't be more grateful for how supportive my family and friends have been over the last couple of days. Thank you to everyone who gave me their advice and support. I appreciate every one of you. Please do not feed your children turpentine. UDG. I can pretty much guarantee that if you're buying bottles labeled 100% pure gum spirits, or whatever, they look like this rather than this, and the warning label basically comes with a wink and a nod for free OOP. Actually it looked like this. Literally has poison impressed down the side of the plastic bottle, complete with all the expected warning labels. Straight from the paint section at Bunnings. Update as of September 2023, September 22nd, 2023 on his profile, 2 years after the original posts, 2 days after the Boru post. Just an update on things since everything went down and maybe provide a little clarity on a few key details. Not that it's necessary to me that you believe my story, Reddit being what it is and all, but bear with me as I haven't really spoken about the topic with anyone outside of my partner in a very, very long time. There will be a few additional details that won't be mentioned for discretionary reasons and active actions currently in place. Not very brief. Sorry. I'll start by stating that the kids have been in my full care since that first post and are very happy and healthy. The mother has placed the entirety of blame on the grandmother and remains steadfast in that stance to this very day. The month prior to my post they spent camping as a family, the kids and their mum's immediate family. They spent that entire time in her care and there is no way she wasn't privy to what was happening. Every goddamn day. The kids had a fucking song to sing about it. All substantiated in statements taken from them. So as a few have speculated, yes, this happened in regional Victoria. A couple hours from Melbourne. The hospital here could have taken the kids in for screening through ER but they didn't have the facilities to actually test the blood work on site. The turnaround for a result, I was told, would have been a few days, possibly longer, as it had to get sent off. Alternatively, I could just wait until the following day to make the trip to the nearest facility that was capable of producing same-day results. We took that option. The kids were triaged the following day through ER. Tested for organ functionality, blood work came back clean. They were privately spoken to and assessed by on-site well-being officers, or whatever their title, and CPS was contacted through the hospital and a case opened. Note, yes, we do call them child protection here even though they operate under the DFFH banner. But so does community housing and disability support, in tangent with NDIS, so do with that information as you will. It's a broad department. We left with the medical reports which included statements given by the children and holy fuck where they were being fed some wild facts about the world. That night I made an informal statement at the local police station stating what the situation was and the actions taken, just so they had it on record. For those tracking the chronology of all this, we are roughly 30 HRS into the timeline from me first finding out. CPS conducted several interviews over the next month with all parties involved as well as a house call to my residence. Not sure how extensively they interviewed the mum. They concluded the children unfit to be in the mother's care but were comfortable in closing their case should they remain with me full time. Surprisingly, there was no legal order put in place. Apparently they are happy to move on from a situation once comfortable with the results. Found a good law firm and started the legal process, which has been very slow due to a, unsurprising, lack of cooperation. Essentially though, we have restricted the mother's access to supervised visitation and removed her parental right as a legal actor regarding medical decisions. She has only seen them a handful of times in the 2 years following despite constant efforts to facilitate visitation. The kids have had therapy and I've spent many hours talking to them over the last 2 years helping them navigate their way through this. They'll have a lot of questions they'll expect answers for when they're older, I'm sure. Currently, we have managed to secure scheduled visitation with the mother through a professional contact center which facilitates supervised visits. It has been a fucking wild ride but we are incredibly lucky and happy to have the strong family unit we currently do, including my partner and her daughter who have been next to us through most of this process. Please teach your kids it's safe to be honest and open with you. My elderly mom's new friend gives me a bad vibe, prompting me to uncover hidden motives and protect her from potential financial harm. Original post. I cannot for the life of me figure out why I feel like this but all of my spidey senses are tingling on this woman. Here's a bit of the background. My 40F elderly mom, 70F, has been ill for quite some time and is on hospice. She was living in an independent living place where it was all elderly people in apartment-type units. She has been living there for about 6 or 7 months and made a few casual old people friends but mostly kept to herself, so I thought. A couple weeks ago my boys and I were visiting my mom, we live right down the street and visit often, when a woman walked up to us with my mom. I extended my hand to introduce myself to this woman when she dismissed the handshake and instead went in for a hug and said, "Oh, I only do hugs for family and we're pretty much family." Okay, a little weird coming from someone I've never met before, and also never even heard a single mention of her but I pretty much brush it off thinking to myself that she's probably just really lonely or something. I asked my mom about this new friend and she just says that they met there at the old people place and she's been a really good friend to her. Great, I love when my mom has friends, it's important to have friends. But this woman just keeps giving me weird vibes and I can't pinpoint why. A few things that seem odd to me. My mom is moving to a more traditional apartment complex this weekend and this new friend liked the new apartment complex so much that she decided to move to the same place as well. Her apartment isn't ready yet but she'll be moving to the same complex as my mom next month. She apparently bought my mom's dog a "I have the world's best auntie" sweatshirt for Christmas. They had known each other for maybe 2 months at that point. She called the other day too, I don't really know why. I guess she gave me her phone number and more formally introduced herself to me. She talked about doing a lot of caretaking stuff for my mom. Oh, I can manage her medications for her if you want. So I replied that while I appreciate the offer, there's a lot of controlled medications and hospice prefers to keep minimal people involved in the medicine stuff and that taking on caretaking responsibilities for a friend can get exhausting so it might be best for them to just focus on being friends rather than her wearing herself out trying to take care of her. She immediately went to my mom and made it sound like I was shit-talking my own mom, saying how she's just an exhausting person, blah blah. When I confronted my new friend about going to my mom and relaying our private conversation in a totally twisted way, the friend lied and said that my mom had grabbed her phone and read it all in the text messages. It was over the phone and not at all via text messages. When I pointed out there were no texts, she just kind of stumbled and I dropped it because I knew it wouldn't get anywhere. Every time I talk to my mom on the phone, I can hear this woman telling her what to say or adding comments in. And none of it is outwardly worrisome things, but it feels like I can't have any conversation with just my mom. I'm a very trusting person who generally tries to see the best in people. And this woman has not given me any concrete reasons to doubt her intentions and has in fact been very friendly and polite to me in all of our interactions. Nonetheless, I can't shake this feeling that there's something wrong here. I sat my mom down yesterday and had a conversation with her about my feelings towards this new friend, and she didn't get defensive at all but disagreed with me and said that her new friend is just being kind and offering to help with stuff because she knows my mom is not the most organized of people and could use the help. I begged my mom to please be cautious and to take the friendship slow and to keep it simply as a friendship and let me, her actual family, handle caretaking stuff. Despite no changes in medications, my mom has been more confused lately and comes across to me like she's overtaken medication, but I only give her one dose at a time and the rest is locked up at all times, so it isn't that. But just to be safe, since she's been more confused lately, I took my mom's credit and debit cards so no one can take advantage of her financially. Reddit, please help me figure out what this woman would have to gain in coming between my mom and I if it isn't medication or money. I don't know how to do a background search or if that's legal for any random person to do. But I did look this new friend up on a couple websites and all I learned from that is that she has a lot of also known as names, but I can't find anything else. I'll pay for a background search if anyone has a recommendation for good ones. We're in California. Does any of this raise any red flags to anyone else, or am I just being too overprotective of my mom on this? Oh, I almost forgot. I called one of my mom's oldest and closest friends the other day and asked her if she's met his new friend and if so, what her impression was. She said, honestly, I don't know why I feel like this, but I just get a bad feeling about her. I just feel like she's up to no good. Hearing this made me feel better in that I'm not the only one to pick up on something, but I don't know what, if anything, to do about it all. Update. Thank you so much for all of the responses and heartfelt advice. I'm so sorry to have been MIA for so long after I originally posted, but it's just been a lot. I needed to take a beat to take it all in and deal with the punches from real life that kept coming my way. Immediately after I posted last, I went to talk with my mom. I explained my concerns and she agreed to the 2 cameras I put up in her apartment. On moving day, I was out of the apartment for a few minutes taking my kids back to my house when I logged onto the camera app to test out the settings. I overheard my mom and the friend talking about me. It was not very nice and very much seemed like the friend was just teeing things up to come between my mom and I. My mom was playing right into it. The friend, I'll just call her Fran to make it easier, was gone when I got back to the apartment, but I got into it with my mom. I was crying, telling her how hurtful it is to hear my own mother participating in a negative conversation about me after everything I do and have done for her. She cried, I cried. It was awful. But at the end I had at least convinced her that Fran was up to no good. Mom agreed to create some distance between her and Fran, and she immediately told Fran that her behavior towards me was not going to fly any longer and all talk of anything to do with me was off limits. Fran seemed to understand and blamed her behavior towards me on some flimsy excuse that I didn't buy for a second. All was calm for a week or so when one morning I called my mom to check in on her, only to find out she was with Fran out running errands. When I pushed for more information, I uncovered that Fran had taken my mom to the bank so that my mom could obtain a new debit card. Fran very much knew I had taken my mom's debit card, with my mom's blessing, because my mom was having episodes of increased confusion and wasn't aware of who or what she was spending money on, because my mom had forgotten she had given me her previous debit card. That was the final straw for me. That night I sent Fran the following text message. Hi Fran. Mom told me about you guys going to the bank today to get a card, and I just wanted to let you know that I know my mom appreciates your friendship, but that I do not appreciate your getting yourself involved in things you have no business being involved in. Mom and I have her finances under control between the two of us, and we do not need any assistance getting her squared away, no matter how well-meaning. She's asked me to take her card again, the new one, and has put me as the main account holder so I can be sure she has access to what she needs but that no one else does. I want to believe you're coming from a sincere place of just wanting to help my mom, but it complicates friendships greatly when you get into financial territory. I handle all of my mom's finances and medical stuff, and it's working for us that way. My mom very much appreciates having you as her friend, but she doesn't need a caretaker. I've got that covered. If you sincerely want to be her friend, you need to take 10 giant steps back and check yourself regarding how you're coming across to me. Because from my perspective it very much looks like you are dancing precariously close to the elder abuse line, and I'm sure you wouldn't want me to get the authorities involved here, but that's exactly what will happen if things continue down this path. Fran responded with some BS reply akin to, "Oh my word, I would never take advantage of anyone and I just wanted to help your mom blah blah blah. Oh, and I think you and I have gotten off on the wrong foot, daughter, which is my fault, but I'd like to start over again, more blah blah blah." I never replied to Fran further, and she has, shockingly, not really reached out to my mom since. I believe she is due to move into the apartment complex this weekend though, so we shall see if she pops back up out of the woodwork. I think she understands that I see through her attempts to come between my mom and I, and that she'll need to focus her efforts to scam people somewhere else. I notified my mom's hospice nurses and her social worker as well. I also bought a really super cool medication dispenser. I won't name it because I'm not plugging anything, but feel free to reach out to me if anyone has family members that they need some help managing medications for. It's expensive and probably cost prohibitive for a lot of folks, but it has been a game changer for me to keep my mom's medicine safe and organized. That is locked and syncs up to an app, so I get notified every time it dispenses a medication. That made me feel much better about Fran not having any access whatsoever to my mom's prescriptions, but the trip to the bank showed me exactly what Fran was after. I notified the bank that if Fran is with my mom, they are to contact me immediately. All in all, I think most of you were correct. Fran was using my mom for money. Or she was trying to, but luckily I caught it before much damage was done. I think I've made my position on Fran clear to her, which is why she is staying away. I think I still need to contact the independent living facility about my concerns with Fran because, I swear I'm not making this is, my mom says that Fran is going to be working at the independent living facility after she moves out. And I don't want her to be in a position to take advantage of anyone else. Thank you again to everyone who replied and reached out to me with resources and/or advice. I read every reply, and I actually read a number of them to my mom as well. It really helped her to see Fran for who she really is. New update second, hopefully final. Update September 30th, 2024. Thank you to those who keep checking in with me asking how my mom is doing and if there's any updates. Original post here first, update post here. My mom is still on hospice and doing okay all things considered. She has her good and her bad days, but she has been mostly lucid lately and I'm grateful for that. F has been mostly MIA, thank goodness, ever since I told her, in no uncertain terms, to beat it. The only time I have heard from her since was when my mom's phone wasn't working and F called me and left a message wanting to know if my mom was okay. I left her to read. So that told me that my mom hasn't cut her out completely, although she tells me she has. But I have, with my mom's blessing, taken control of any avenue F could possibly use to take advantage of my mother. I alerted the hospice nurses and social worker and I let F know that I had done that as well. My mom also finally made some better friends who live nearby and they also helped keep an eye on her for me. I did not go to the police as I didn't feel I had a case to do so, but I did let F know I wouldn't hesitate to do so if given a reason. If F comes back around my mom or gives me any reason to think something is up, I'll update you all to let you know. But as of now, my mom is safe. I handle all her medication as well as her finances, so no one can weasel their way in to try to take anything at all away from my mom. Thank you to everyone for your care and concern. Relevant comments. Comment, they want her pills. OP. I thought the same thing, which is why I locked them up tight. My mom agreed to a camera right over her dispenser so we can keep eyes on her medications at all times. The machine I got her is pretty cool too and alerts me via text if the machine door is ever opened. Not that it could be because it has a passcode on it that even my mom doesn't know. So there's lots of safeguards in place to ensure no one gets into any of her stuff at all. My husband died, but I have to pretend he was a good man. Overcoming a *C to reclaim freedom and start a new life for myself and my children. Original post. My husband passed away 3 months ago. I was relieved of that. He abused me financially, mentally, and even physically. When I got pregnant, he convinced me to quit my job, saying that he would take care of me. I could never buy anything again without asking his permission. I couldn't even buy a cream without asking his permission, and he decided if I could or not, even months ago, that I had a little money of my own. I had to ask him for permission to buy something. What was mine was his and his was his. But I stayed there because I still loved him and I didn't have a place to go. I had too low self-esteem and let myself be stepped on. When I stopped loving him, he had already had his first affair. He made me believe that I was to blame for the affair because I didn't want to have sex months after my birth that left me torn and I had to receive stitches. I was already planning my exit and saving money little by little while I was working selling things from home since he wouldn't let me work outside because he was very jealous. I wanted to pay for a lawyer. He was having another affair with a friend of his which luckily kept him busier, and I didn't care anymore that he didn't pay attention to me. I wanted him to stay as far away as possible. I knew that man and he knew me. I could have made a big fuss but I didn't. I kept quiet planning my way out while he and that man slept together in secret. I only felt disgusted by my husband, nothing more. But my husband died in a way I never would have expected. He is now a martyr. When someone dies, all the sins of that person disappear. Because that's what even my family thinks. Those who knew about his affair and how he manipulated me are now talking about how good a man he was, and we shouldn't insult someone who's dead. Everyone around me talks about how beautiful our relationship was. His family talks about what a great man he was and how he always focused on giving everything to me and our kid. His affair partner hugged me at the funeral saying that my husband loved me. His friends told me what a great person he was. Everyone talks about how good but he was and how he is now an angel in heaven. And I have to pretend to be sad. The day he died I cried a lot, but not out of sadness. I cried with relief and I felt free. It would have taken me too many years to save to pay for lawyers with my little store without him realizing that I was keeping money in secret. He would have kept everything. He would have made my life a hell, and I know it because he had told me so every time I stood for myself. But now I have the house, I have everything, I have the monthly money for being a widow, I have my children totally with me. I have started to become a psychologist. Everyone thinks that I do it to cope with my grief, but no, it is to overcome the abuse I suffered from him. It was really hard to pretend to be sad at the funeral, but I did it for my child. I did it because now everything is over and I'm free. If I made a fuss, my ex-mill would have done something so that I wouldn't keep anything. They were just like him. But now I'm just a sad widow who needs help in their eyes. The silly widow who didn't know anything, but that's helping me to be free and have what I deserve. Sorry for the bad English. I use the translator for many parts. Edit. We are not from an Islamic country and here same-sex couples can live and marry freely. He just cheated on me with a man like he cheated on me with a woman. I guess he was bisexual. Relevant comments. Organic 2003. I am stuck on his affair partner hugging you and telling you he loved you. She had the balls to show at the funeral. Damn, you have more control than I could have ever mustered. Cheers to a life full of fun and love. OOP, his affair partner was his football teammate and friend. He is a man. Thanks. PM_ME_happy_ thinks your husband had an affair with a man? Or another woman? You have a child? Or children? OP. His first affair was with a woman, I think. The second with a man, of which I know. Maybe he had others that I don't know. For privacy reasons I don't want to reveal the number of children, so I prefer to leave it at that. Update. It's been several weeks since I last posted and I didn't expect my post to end in other places. Honestly, I had totally forgotten that I posted here, but a few days ago the lover and friend of my ex-husband. I have started calling my deceased husband that way. I don't want to be eternally tied to the idea that he is still my husband even after death. Death did me the favor of separating us, visited my house saying that he found my post. I didn't expect him to find this and it scared me a bit, but honestly there's nothing I can do about this anymore if someone has posted it elsewhere without asking me first. One of my sons let him in when I hadn't heard the doorbell, so I had no choice but to let him in to not make a drama in front of my kids, and I wanted to know what he was going to say. Once alone he told me that he knows that I know about him and my husband having an affair because of the post I sent to TikTok, although I never did any post on TikTok. That's why I think someone uploaded this there. He told me that my husband was not the best husband, but he was a great friend to everyone and a very hard-working man to everyone. That even his family misses him too much, and even though he had his mistakes in the past, that I should let go of the past and stop digging into it cause we're all better off like that. He was insisting for a while to such an extent that I felt intimidated by him to the point he reminded me of my husband, and it is the first time that I have that feeling with a man that is not my ex-husband. I can talk peacefully with them, but this situation made me feel on the verge of a panic attack because of his attitude. He's basically scared that I'll tell everything. He's gay and I don't know if he has a boyfriend, but maybe he does, and that's why he doesn't want me to say anything about their affair. I've been a submissive woman for years. My ex-husband turned me into a fearful woman that I wasn't before. He made me the kind of woman who was always going to put her head down, but when he died I felt so happy and liberated I cried with relief for days. And when this man came into my house to tell me what to do, it was like seeing my ex-husband again, giving me instructions about how to behave and what to do. The man who knows very well that I was in an abusive relationship because he knew how my ex was and chose to sleep with him anyways. The man my husband made me cook for and then fucked him as if I were just a maid was at my house telling me that my ex was a good person and that I should shut my mouth. He was telling me what to do and I just punched his face. To be honest, I wanted to slap him, but for some reason I felt so angry that I hit him, and it felt like hitting my husband too. I don't regret it and I felt good. I yelled at him and told him to leave or I was going to tell everyone what happened. He ended up leaving the house and he has been quiet since that day. My main plan was just to shut my mouth and let go of the past. But that is one thing, and a totally different thing is that this man comes and wants to impose on me what to do as if I were a doll. Maybe my reaction wasn't the best, but I'm tired of people telling me to shut up. I never managed to say anything to my husband, and that day I felt that I somehow did that. I haven't told anyone yet, nor do I think about doing so, but if he does something I won't hesitate twice before this time whether to make a TikTok or post on Facebook talking about everything. With the issue of the house, with the economic crisis, I am not sure that anyone can afford what a house like this is worth, but for now I have focused on finally being able to get a better job in the future, to be able to rent a house and be able to rent this house. That could be a really good way to have money. My other goal in the future is to buy a small piece of land, no matter how far it is. I want to have something that is my own and my children. My children don't miss their father too much and I understand them. It has taken me a while to get them a child psychologist, but recently they started to go to their sessions and they are doing well. I also go to a psychologist. I think the best thing I've done is to start making excuses for my ex-MIL and my own family for not seeing them as often as before, and I've started the stage of cutting off contact little by little, making excuses with work or that we're not at home. Although I still have to let my ex-MIL come home from time to time, I think even my kids are happier when they see that my own mood is better. I doubt that many people are interested in this, but thank you for the messages I received. Although many do not understand that cultures and laws are different and buying a house or moving to the other side of a country in a month is impossible for many. Relevant comments. Llama_48,213. The audacity. He thinks you are still the maid. Good for you for showing your strength and sending him on his way. The nerve. I would strongly advise you to coach your children to not allow anyone in that house. Not just for AP if he returns. This includes the family you plan to distance yourself from. OOP. Yes, they know that they should not open the door to strangers, but they open the door to people they know because my ex-husband always sent them to open the door for him. I have begun to explain to them that they should not open the door to anyone without telling me first, and now I leave everything with a lock and key.